Snow started falling long before Ethan realized he was in trouble. At first, it looked soft and harmless, like tiny white feathers floating from the sky. The road through the mountains was quiet, almost peaceful. Ethan kept both hands tight on the steering wheel, his eyes focused ahead. He was tired, not just from the drive, but from life itself. Ethan was a single father. Every decision he made carried weight because someone small and precious depended on him. This trip was supposed to be quick. One short job, one night stay in a cabin owned by a local contact, and then back home. Extra money meant warm clothes for his daughter and peace of mind for a while. That was all he wanted. Miles away, another car struggled on the same road. Claire adjusted her coat and sighed deeply. She was the CEO of a powerful company used to boardrooms, assistants, and control. But tonight, none of that mattered. Her phone showed no signal. Her mind was loud with thoughts she could not silence. She had taken this trip to escape pressure, but the storm did not care about her reasons. The snow grew heavier. Wind howled between the trees. The road disappeared under white layers. Claire's car suddenly slid, turning sideways before stopping near a wooden sign that pointed toward an old cabin. She stepped out, boots sinking into snow, cold biting her skin. She had no choice. She followed the sign. At the same time, Ethan's truck stopped moving. No matter how hard he pressed the gas, the tires spun uselessly. He cursed under his breath, then noticed the same wooden sign. Cabin, shelter, hope. He grabbed his bag and walked toward it, head down against the wind. The cabin was small, old, and dark. When Ethan pushed the door open, it creaked loudly. Inside, the air smelled of wood and dust. A small fireplace sat in the corner. Before he could step fully inside, he froze. Someone was already there. Claire turned quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. Two strangers, trapped by the same storm, staring at each other in silence. The wind slammed the door shut behind Ethan, making them both jump. "I didn't know anyone else was coming," Ethan said calmly, raising his hand slightly to show he meant no harm. "Neither did I," Claire replied. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. They stood apart, careful, alert. Outside, the storm grew louder, as if reminding them that leaving was no longer an option. After a long pause, they agreed on one thing. Staying alive mattered more than comfort. Ethan checked the cabin. No electricity. One thin blanket on a wooden bed, a small pile of firewood. Not much, but better than nothing. Claire helped light the fire, her hands shaking from the cold. When the flames finally rose, warmth filled the room slowly. Minutes turned into hours. The fire cracked softly. Shadows danced on the walls. They spoke little, only what was necessary. Ethan noticed how Claire watched the door whenever the wind screamed, as if expecting it to break open. Claire noticed how Ethan checked his watch again and again, worry written on his face. As night fell, the temperature dropped fast. The fire began to weaken. The single blanket lay folded on the bed, looking too small to matter. Silence returned, heavier than before. Then Claire broke it. "It's getting really cold," she said quietly. "If the fire goes out—" Ethan nodded. He understood. Hypothermia did not care about pride or distance. They sat closer to the fire, but it was not enough. The cold crept in, wrapping around their legs and arms. The wind pushed against the walls, testing the cabin like a living thing. Claire hesitated. She looked at the blanket, then at Ethan. Her voice dropped, almost a whisper, carrying fear and need at the same time. "Can I slip under your blanket?" The question hung in the air, small but heavy. Outside, the storm roared louder, as if waiting for the answer. The fire did not last through the night. By the time morning arrived, only weak embers glowed in the fireplace, giving off little heat. The storm outside had not slowed. Snow pressed against the windows like a frozen wall, blocking any view of the road. The cabin felt smaller than before, as if the cold itself had pushed the walls closer. Ethan woke first. His body felt stiff, his back sore from sleeping upright. He carefully shifted, making sure not to disturb Claire. They had shared the blanket only for warmth, nothing more. Still, the closeness felt strange to him. He was not used to letting anyone this near. For years his life had been simple and guarded: work, home, his daughter, repeat. Claire stirred and opened her eyes. For a second, panic crossed her face as she remembered where she was. Then reality settled in. The cabin. The storm. The man beside her. She slowly pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. "Morning," Ethan said softly. "Morning," she replied. Her voice quiet and tired. They sat in silence, listening to the wind outside. Hunger made itself known. Ethan searched the cabin again, hoping he had missed something. He found 2 cans of soup and a half loaf of bread, frozen hard. It was not much, but it was enough for now. They ate slowly, careful not to waste a single bite. Claire watched Ethan as he broke the bread evenly, giving her the larger piece without comment. The small gesture stayed with her. "You're very calm," she said after a while. "Most people would be angry. Or scared." Ethan shrugged. "Being scared doesn't help. Someone has to stay clear-headed." He did not say it, but he was used to this role. When his wife had passed away suddenly, panic had not been an option. His daughter needed him steady, not broken. He had learned to lock fear away and move forward. Claire nodded, understanding more than he realized. "I'm used to being in control," she admitted. "This, not knowing what will happen, it's hard." Ethan gave a small smile. "Control is an illusion out here." They tried to check for signal again. Nothing. The storm showed no sign of stopping. The road was completely buried. Rescue would not come soon. They both knew it, even if neither said it out loud, to keep warm. Ethan suggested gathering more wood from the storage shed behind the cabin. It was risky, but necessary. He wrapped his coat tighter and stepped outside. The cold hit him like a wall. Snow reached his knees, making each step heavy. The wind burned his face. Claire watched from the doorway, heart racing. Every second he was gone felt longer than the last. When he finally returned, breathing hard, carrying a small stack of wood, relief washed over her. "Don't do that again alone," she said quickly. "Next time, we go together." Ethan paused, surprised, then nodded. "Fair enough." They rebuilt the fire. Warmth returned, slow but welcome. As the hours passed, conversation came easier. They spoke about small things at first. Favorite foods, places they wished they had visited. Slowly, deeper truths surfaced. Claire spoke about the loneliness behind success. Long nights. Empty apartments. People who only wanted something from her. Ethan listened without judgment. Ethan spoke about fatherhood. About the fear of failing his daughter. About nights when he lay awake, worrying about money and time slipping away. Claire listened, her eyes soft. By evening, the storm still raged, but something inside the cabin had shifted. They were no longer just strangers trapped by chance. They were allies. As night fell again, the cold returned, quieter but steady. They reached for the blanket without hesitation this time, not from fear, but from trust. Night returned quietly, but the fear inside the cabin felt louder than the storm itself. The wind no longer screamed like before. Instead, it whispered through the cracks, cold and patient. The fire burned low again, its light weak and unsteady. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving slowly, like time itself had slowed down. Ethan sat awake, staring at the flames. His thoughts kept drifting back to his daughter. He imagined her small hands, her laugh, the way she waited for him at the window when he came home late. The idea of not making it back tightened his chest. He rubbed his hands together, not just from the cold, but from worry he could not silence. Claire noticed his tension. She had been pretending to sleep, but fear kept her eyes open. "You're thinking about someone?" she said softly. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "My daughter," he admitted. "She's all I have." Claire turned toward him under the blanket. The firelight caught her face, tired but honest. "She must be lucky," she said, "to have someone who worries that much." Ethan smiled faintly. "I just hope it's enough." Silence followed, heavy but not uncomfortable. Outside, a loud crack echoed through the trees. Claire jumped, her breath caught and without thinking. She moved closer to Ethan. He felt her shiver and adjusted the blanket around them both. "It's okay," he said quietly. "It's just the trees." She nodded, but her voice trembled. "I don't like not knowing what's coming." Ethan understood that feeling more than she knew. Sometimes, he said, not knowing is the hardest part. The cold crept back in as the fire finally died. Darkness filled the cabin, broken only by moonlight pushing through the window. Their breathing slowed, matching the calm they tried to hold on to. Claire broke it again, her voice barely above the wind. "I've spent my whole life chasing success. I thought it would make me feel safe. And did it?" Ethan asked. She shook her head. "It just made everything quieter and lonelier." Ethan did not respond right away. He chose his words carefully. "Safety isn't about walls or money. It's about knowing someone would look for you if you didn't come home." The words stayed with her. She had never thought of it that way. Suddenly, the cabin shook. A sharp sound cracked through the air. Snow slid off the roof, slamming against the walls. Claire gasped, fear rising fast. Her heart raced, old panic waking up inside her. Ethan reacted instantly. He pulled her closer, steady and firm. "Hey, look at me," he said calmly. "You're not alone." She met his eyes. In that moment, the storm outside felt distant. His voice grounded her. Slowly, her breathing eased. "I don't remember the last time someone said that to me," she whispered. Ethan looked away, feeling something shift inside him. "People forget to say important things," he replied. They stayed like that for a long time, sharing warmth, listening to the storm fade into the background. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people surviving the same night before sleep finally claimed them. Claire spoke again, softer than before. "If we make it out of here, I don't want to forget this feeling." Ethan closed his eyes. "Neither do I." Outside, the storm began to weaken, but neither of them noticed. Inside the cabin, something stronger had already formed. Night approached again, gentler this time. They prepared without fear, stacking wood, planning turns. Claire asked about Ethan's daughter. He spoke with warmth, pride breaking through restraint. Claire shared a childhood memory, simple and kind. Laughter returned, surprising them. When darkness settled, they shared the blanket easily, respectful and sure. The cabin felt safer. Outside, stars appeared through breaks in cloud. Inside, trust held steady. Whatever morning brought, they would face it together. Grounded by truth, patience, and a quiet courage earned during shared silences, and listening hearts rest close near fireplace stones tonight again, softly breathing slow peace inside. Sleep came unevenly, but calm remained. Dreams felt lighter, edges softened. The cabin creaked, friendly now. Ethan promised himself he would return home, stronger, clearer. Claire promised change, not grand, but real. The storm had stripped noise away, leaving values sharp. Outside, snow glittered under moonlight. Inside, two lives paused, aligned by chance. Tomorrow might bring rescue or waiting. Either way, they had learned something true. Survival was shared, and meaning grew when courage chose kindness first within them, both as dawn promised honest beginnings ahead after long hours of cold and care together here. Now finally resting safe again, back inside. Warmth returned with motion and purpose. Claire noticed a folder near the shelf, papers stamped official. Ethan explained the job brought him here, a chance he could not refuse. She listened closely, realizing how narrow his margins were. He asked nothing, expected nothing. Her own life felt suddenly loud and wasteful. Titles meant little here. She shared her work truthfully, without power or polish. He accepted it simply. Respect settled between them, not from status, but from honesty earned through cold hours spent together, learning care and patience during waiting days ahead, slowly forming bonds strong enough to. Afternoon faded. Hunger returned. They cooked soup carefully, steam rising like comfort. While eating, a distant sound cut the air, faint and hopeful. They froze, listening. It came again, an engine far away. Hearts raced. They rushed outside, waving coats, shouting into white space. The sound passed, swallowed by hills. Silence followed, heavier than before. Claire sagged. Ethan steadied her. Hope had lifted, then dropped. He reminded her storm's end slowly. She nodded, breathing, choosing patience over despair together as daylight thinned and shadows stretched long across snow-covered ground outside. The quiet cabin doors nearby waiting calmly now again by midday. Clouds thinned and light brightened. Ethan suggested checking the ridge for signal together. They layered clothes and moved carefully, leaving markers. The walk was slow, snow deep, air sharp. Halfway up, Ethan slipped, catching himself, pride bruised. Claire reached him fast, gripping his arm. Her strength surprised them both. They rested, laughing softly, breathless. At the top, phones stayed silent. Disappointment came, but unity stayed. They returned safely, learning limits, learning reliance. Learning that shared risk changed how fear felt inside them both as trust hardened like ice under sunlight and steps. Homeward felt lighter than before today. Claire stepped outside briefly, boots sinking, breath fogging. The cold bit, but fear had softened. She scanned the trees and felt small, yet steady. When she returned, Ethan had organized supplies on the table. 2 cans, breadcrumbs, matches counted. Practical care felt comforting. Claire thanked him. He shrugged, unused to praise. They discussed options calmly, mapping hours, sharing duties. No signal still. The idea of rescue drifted farther away. Instead of panic, planning filled the room. Trust had grown quietly overnight, strong enough to guide simple choices together between them as daylight slowly warmed spirits again inside the cabin. Morning light crept through the frosted window and painted the cabin pale blue. Ethan woke to silence, strange and gentle after the long night. He listened for the wind and heard almost nothing. Snow still lay thick outside, but the storm had loosened its grip. Claire stirred and sat up, rubbing her arms. They exchanged a small smile, surprised by relief. The fire was dead, yet the air felt calmer. Ethan checked the door and window, careful and hopeful. Tracks showed drifting snow, no road, no help, but the sky looked clearer above them as morning promised time today ahead. Morning light crept across the cabin floor, revealing quiet order where chaos once lived. Ethan moved first, checking supplies again, calm and focused. Claire watched him, noticing how steadiness followed him like a habit. Outside, the sky opened wider, blue breaking through gray. The storm was ending, but danger remained. They decided to try again. Together, they would search the ridge one last time. If no signal appeared, they would conserve energy and wait. It felt like a fair plan. They dressed carefully, layering clothes, tying boots tight. Before leaving, Ethan paused, placing the blanket neatly on the bed. Claire smiled at the small respect in the gesture. The climb was harder than before. Sunlight softened the snow, making steps sink deeper. Halfway up, Ethan slowed, breathing heavy. Claire matched his pace, refusing to rush him. At the ridge, they raised their phones. Nothing. Then, a weak buzz flickered on Claire's screen and died. Hope surged, then fell. Ethan exhaled slowly. "We'll wait," he said. Safest choice. On the way down, the ground shifted. A hidden patch of ice sent Ethan sliding. He fell hard, pain flashing across his leg. Claire rushed to him, panic rising. He tried to stand and failed. His knee shook, useless. "I'm okay," he lied. Claire didn't accept it. She knelt, steady, assessing like someone used to pressure. "You're hurt," she said gently. "Lean on me." He hesitated. Pride resisted. Then he nodded. Step by step, she helped him back to the cabin. Each movement hurt, but he kept quiet. Inside, she guided him to the bed and wrapped the blanket around his leg. Careful and firm, thank you, he said quietly. She met his eyes. You don't have to be strong all the time. The words struck deeper than the fall. He looked away, swallowing emotion he had trained himself to hide. Hours passed. The sky stayed clear. No rescue came. Ethan's legs swelled, limiting movement. Claire took charge without announcing it. She fed the fire, rationed food, melted snow for water. She moved with purpose, not authority. Ethan watched, grateful and humbled. As evening settled, guilt crept in. You shouldn't be stuck here because of me, he said. Claire shook her head. I chose to come back down. I choose to stay. Silence followed, filled with crackling wood. Outside, the snow reflected moonlight softly. Inside, vulnerability filled the space. Ethan spoke at last. My wife died suddenly. I learned to carry everything alone. Claire listened, heart open. I learned to hide behind success, she said. It kept people far away. They sat close, not needing the blanket for warmth anymore. Understanding warmed them instead. The storm had tested their bodies. This moment tested their honesty. Later, a distant sound returned, clearer this time. A helicopter's hum cut through the quiet. Claire jumped up, running to the door. She waved, shouting, hope, blazing bright. The sound circled, grew louder. Ethan struggled to stand. Claire supported him, steady and strong. Lights flashed through the trees. The helicopter hovered, then landed nearby. Relief flooded the cabin. As rescuers approached, Claire squeezed Ethan's hand. Whatever happens next, she said softly. This mattered. Ethan nodded, eyes shining. It still does. The door opened, cold air rushing in, but fear stayed outside. They stepped forward together, changed by the storm that brought them here. Outside, medics checked Ethan's knee and offered reassurance. It was painful, but stable. Claire wrapped an arm around him, steadying more than his balance. As they were guided toward safety, both glanced back at the cabin, small against the snow. It had been shelter, teacher, and witness. In the helicopter, warmth returned quickly, yet neither rushed to speak. The noise faded into calm. Claire watched mountains slide beneath them and felt lighter than she had in years. Ethan closed his eyes, picturing his daughter's smile, knowing he would tell her a true story about courage and kindness. When the lights of the town appeared, Claire squeezed his hand once more, a promise without words. Carrying forward what the storm had revealed, they landed safely, hearts steady, futures uncertain, yet hopeful. Carrying shared strength into ordinary days that would never feel ordinary again after this night, rescue moved quickly. But the quiet came later. Ethan stayed overnight for observation, leg wrapped and resting. Claire waited nearby, refusing to leave. Nurses came and went, asking questions, offering smiles. When the doctor said Ethan would heal with care and time, relief spread gently. Claire finally breathed fully. Outside the window, snow melted slowly, turning danger into memory. And morning felt possible again for both of them today, together. Later that day, they sat quietly in a small room, sharing tea. Ethan spoke to his daughter on the phone, voice steady but soft. Claire listened, moved by love she could hear. When the call ended, Ethan smiled with hope. Claire felt something settle inside her chest, a calm she had not known. Earned through patience and shared fear during long hours of waiting and care between them both there. News traveled fast once identity surfaced. Claire's team arrived, respectful and quiet. She asked for privacy and was granted it. In the hallway, she apologized for assumptions she once held about people like Ethan. He shrugged, not offended, just honest. They spoke about choices, about slowing down, about rebuilding days around people, instead of pressure and noise that had ruled their past lives for too long. Before this storm arrived, when Ethan was discharged, Claire insisted on driving him home. He resisted, then accepted. The road looked different now, less threatening, more open. At his house, his daughter ran into his arms carefully, laughing. Claire watched from the doorway, tears held back. She realized success meant little without moments like this. Simple, fragile, deeply real, shared with those who showed up when storms tested their hearts and hopes together. Weeks later, Claire made changes quietly. She reduced meetings, delegated power, and listened more. She funded a small program for parents needing flexible work. Thinking of Ethan, he returned to routine, stronger, present, healed. They stayed in touch. Messages thoughtful, unforced. Friendship grew without promises. Both learned that storms reveal paths forward if people choose honesty, courage, care daily while respecting boundaries, time, space, and quiet growth together naturally. The cabin remained empty, snow fading from its roof. Yet its lesson traveled far. Two lives changed, not by romance, but by trust formed under pressure. Ethan told his daughter the storm taught him bravery can be gentle. Claire learned strength can rest. When winter returned, they remembered warmth created by listening, choosing kindness, and standing together when the world felt cold and hope quietly endured beyond that night forever.